The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey everybody, welcome. I am Tamara Scott, and it is the Tamara Scott Show, where we help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. So thank you for joining us. You can watch the show with us live every noonday at 12 p.m. Central Time, or you can get it on the archives. It's complimentary to you for about 7 days after it airs, and then it goes behind the paywall at wvwtv.com. wvwtv.com. Actually, it's wvwtv. Let's see, worldviewtube. worldviewtube.vault. worldviewtube.com vault. I'll get it right. Keep working with me. worldviewtube.com/vault. That's it. worldviewtube.com/vault. When you pay the subscription price, which is extremely reasonable, you not only get our access to my very articulate programs, but you get the incredible guests that God gives us every day, as well. I don't even know what that was. So see, it's not just me. And then you get every show on the network, as well as Brandon's incredible library of all of his documentaries, his speeches, his presentations, and he's been at this for 36 plus years. So it's well worth your reasonable subscription fee to go to, let's say it together, worldviewtube.com/vault. All right, it is February 5th. Lots happening already. 4 or 5 days into the month. Joining me today is Andy Schafly, and it's an honor for me to have Andy with me. He is, the son of Phyllis Schafly, one of our greatest patriots ever in this country. And I look back at all the good she did as a mom, as Raising Tomorrow's Leaders, which is one of my little things, is the most important thing we can do, is Raising Tomorrow's Leaders, and the work that she did, whether it's on the ERA, stopping the Convention of States, challenging, I believe, one of our Republican presidents when they made a Supreme Court nomination she did not agree with. She protested outside the White House. Her courage was unstoppable, and she often had better or more bold argument and articulation than many of the men in leadership. So there you go. All right, so Andy, besides all that, practices law in every federal appellate court, writes a weekly conservative column at townhall.com, works with Phyllis Schafly Eagles, who Phyllis Schafly was his mother, and he focuses on emerging issues like gambling, data centers, which we're going to talk about today, and he also is an active pro-lifer. He's general counsel for the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, which is the oldest conservative organization in our country. I did not know that. And he graduated from Harvard Law School, where he was an editor at the Harvard Law Review and worked in Silicon Valley after college, and is now happily married with family on the eastern side of the United States. Andy Schafly, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Tamara. It's such an honor to be on your wonderful show here. And it's just everything you say is just spot on, and you're leading the advocacy that's going to carry our country forward. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that so much. I so appreciate that. And so let's talk data centers, 999 to 1 opposed. Now, that's the article you wrote. I found that article. Where did I find that? The Liberty Sentinel, another one of our friends in the conservative movement, getting truth out there. And you and your brother wrote it. Oh, I left my hard copy up on my desk. It came to my post office box, and that's what got my attention in the Phyllis Schafly report. How could people sign up for the Phyllis Schafly report?
Yeah, so you can just email us or call us. I'll give you the number 618-462-5415. That's 618-462-5415. And we'll send it out to you. It's an inexpensive subscription cost. We'll send you some free ones initially. And this is the same report my mother started in 1967. So what are we going on here? 60 years uh,
Wow.
of this report, and it's a monthly newsletter that gives you the information that you're not going to see in the lamestream media. You will see it on your show, Tamara,
Thank
and
you.
eventually it gets out there. So if you look back sort of 10 years ago, what she was saying in the report, it's now mainstream today. So it does become mainstream over time. Like what she talked about on border security, she was talking about that in the late 90s.
Yeah.
Border security, the
Yeah.
problem of illegal aliens coming to our country. She was talking about that when nobody else was talking about it. And now here it's mainstream.
Absolutely. And she was warning against the Convention of States back in the 80s, I believe. And now look, we're dealing with it again in so many of our states, and they haven't gotten any new arguments. The same arguments that George Washington is said to have opposed it, that they have no remedy, just a lot of fear and tactic. It's the same that they're using today, different people, different organizations. So she was key in that. And then I always love the one they say, while the feminists were arguing about whether or not it was okay to wear lipstick in the office, Phyllis Schlafly was talking about judicial nominations. She was so far ahead of all of us. So I can't imagine what a blessing it was to grow up under the tutelage and mentorship of a mother like Phyllis Schlafly. What a blessing. What an absolute blessing. All right. So, and folks, if you need that number, again, it's 618-462-5415, or you can always email the Tamara Scott Show and we'll get it to you as well. The Tamara Scott Show at gmail.com. All right, so data centers. You're right, Andy Schlafly. We're not hearing a lot about these, even when they're coming into our own neighborhoods. We're not hearing about it until we hear it's too late to deal with it. It's already a done deal. So talk to us about these data centers.
So these data centers, Tamara, it's in one way, it's kind of a fun topic, a funny topic that these monstrosities that take up hundreds of acres of land are they're building on these things, these immense data centers, computers. They look like warehouses. They're lit 24/7, so you got light pollution all over the place when one comes in. They have a hum to them, so you've got this background noise in your house now. If it comes in nearby to you, you hear this constant the way the computers make that noise. It's soaking up water, which is scarce in most parts of our country. It's not so scarce in the Northeast, or probably not in Iowa, but most of the country has a shortage of water. Well, these things soak up water like a city of 50,000 people. So in Texas, where there is a shortage of water, they're building these monstrosities, these data centers down there that's the equivalent of doubling the population of Texas. Well, there's not enough water in Texas for its current population. How's there possibly going to be enough water in Texas for all these data centers? There isn't. It soaks up energy. It's causing our electricity rates to increase. So they say that in the last election that we had in some states here last November, New York City, Virginia, New Jersey, they say that the rise in electricity prices was a big factor in this election. People's utility bills are going way up. Well, why are they going up? They're going up because these data centers lock in preferential rates for themselves. And so when you get inflation and rising costs, that's shifted to the backs of homeowners. So
Yeah.
we're all paying like 10% more in electricity that we can't do anything about, while these data centers are getting the cheaper rates, getting the wholesale rates because they're using so much of it. And these sharks who are behind these data centers, it's big tech, places like Google, they know how to negotiate favorable contracts for them. They know how to do that. They know how to come into a community, keep their identity secret, and then there's some sort of town hall meeting. It may just be in some elementary school somewhere for some zoning decision, and there'll just be routine things on the agenda. Well, like some neighbor wants to build another house on his property and rezone his name. Okay, this and that, and then the final item that nobody knew anything about, they're going to decide to approve a 600-acre data center right in your community. And you get 2 weeks notice of this, and you got to mobilize, and they've gotten some of these through without anybody waking up to it. But where people are waking up to it, Tamara, there is outrage about this. 999 to 1 against these data centers, Tamara. That's the type of numbers we're looking at here. It's not like 60-40, 70-30. That's what we see in political percentages. If someone's ahead by 60-40, that's a landslide. No. On data centers, the public is 999 to 1 against it. So you get these town halls where the public wakes up to what there's going to be a vote on. You will get hundreds of people coming out to that meeting against it. And you get some of these councilmen who've been already lobbied by Google or Amazon or Microsoft. And so they're there. We're going to vote for this. We got the votes and so on. And then this groundswell of opposition comes out and it gets defeated when people learn about it and when there's a vote. There's no reason to support these data centers, Tamara. They're not bringing jobs to our communities. So Governor Abbott in Texas, he goes, well, we'll make Texas the next high-tech capital of the world. We're bringing these data centers. They're not bringing in jobs, Tamara. There'd be a handful of jobs. Well, it soaks up 600 acres of property, enough water for 50,000 people, energy, and so on. And where are the jobs? They're not.
Right.
They're like warehouses.
Okay, so you just hit on something like the warehouses. I want to come back to that environmentally, because the rest of us go to put in a business that's actually going to be sustainable and a blessing to the community. And we get told we have to do this detention pond. We can only have so much parking lot. We have to have so many trees for every square foot of parking lot. I know these places may put in some trees, but what are they doing to the environment? They are the ugliest buildings I have seen. We'll come back. That's just the least of the problems. The aesthetics of it is the least of the problems. We'll come back. We'll be right back with Andy Schafly talking about the AI data centers that you usually hear nothing about until they're a done deal. Stay tuned. I wonder why that is. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. The Tamara Scott Show.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage, and now, real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
I need to tell you about our Bella Grace. The slender little sachet has the elixir with the collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's claw. In 2022, got an award for helping with cognitive function, and in 2023 in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. But the best is what we hear from so many of you. You have noticed better joint health, improved mobility, less eye strain and fatigue, helping with computer vision syndrome, visual acuity, depth perception, alleviating dry eyes, but also helping with your immunity, your stress management, endurance, less fatigue overall, not just eye fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. Then there's the fun list. The firmer, smoother skin texture, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spots, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduced oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, hair health, better sleep. Who wouldn't want any of those? Call them beauty items if you wish, but who doesn't want to feel a little bit better or more confident when you're going to present in the public square, when you're going to speak at a city council? And who just doesn't want to feel a little healthier? Maybe they're just byproducts of being healthier. More information at tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, tamara.bellagraceglobal.com. All right, I'm talking with Andy Schafly. We're talking about data centers, the AI data centers that just seem to pop up in your communities all of a sudden. Don't have a lot of notice about them, don't seem to have zoning meetings, which I would say in many of the areas you would think it would change the zoning, since often they go in where our farmland is, some of the most productive farmland across the nation, right here in the heartland. And then all of a sudden is a, you know, as Andy said, 600 acres being used for one of these data centers. So Andy, all right, so we're going to hit on some of these points. And thank you for writing this article. It's at libertysentinel.org. It's also the Phyllis Schlafly report. All right, first off, why aren't these being built in California where Silicon Valley is? You used to work there. This is AI. This is right up their alley. Why aren't these built there on the sand, in the desert, where there's nothing else growing? Why are they coming after our prized farmland?
That's a terrific question, Tamara. So there's plenty of extra space in California. If any of you have visited out there, sure, it's a little crowded in LA, but you go into the western part of the state, the northern part of the state, there's plenty of extra space in California, but they're not building these data centers in California. Why? Because California is good at taking from the Midwest. This has been going on for many issues in many ways where California steals from the Midwest. And they're coming to the Midwest and Texas to build these data centers because it's profitable for California to take from Texas and the rest of the country and enrich themselves with subsidies, water, energy, all sorts of perks that they know that they can pull the wool over the eyes of us Midwesterners and get more profits for themselves in California. So that's the way this game works. Tricks and fine print and contracts and a lot of hype and so on. And the bottom line is they're just enriching themselves in California at our expense, Tamara. Look at the wind turbine issue. It's environmentalists in California who are pushing these wind turbines. And then you realize there's not a single wind turbine off the coast of California, not a single offshore wind turbine. They're building them off of the East Coast, they're building them in all these other places, but California themselves, the ones who are pushing these wind turbines, don't have a single offshore wind turbine. Again, it's the people in California who have more money and they think they're smarter than everybody, and they're taken from the rest of the country. And we got to blow the whistle on it. This has got to stop.
And so to come back to that, in California, if these don't take water, shouldn't be an issue. If these do take water, California probably couldn't help because water would be a great source, an issue for them. So helps us get to the bottom of and the truth on that issue as well. And then you mentioned the subsidies. Would these be going in without subsidies? Are these getting government kickbacks? It really irritates me when I hear even Republican leadership in my state give Google or Facebook or anybody else a huge multi-million-dollar tax credit in some way, and then turn around and tax the citizens to put broadband in across the state. Why don't those groups do that as part of the agreement when they come into the state? They're going to benefit.
Right.
It's
right. I mean, big tech has all this money. I mean, we're hearing all the time all this boasting about how much money they have. Why are we giving them tax subsidies? And that's what's going on with these data centers. They're subsidized, they're tax breaks, and people think it's a good thing. Well, the ordinary folk are waking up to this. So St. Charles, Missouri, one of the most conservative areas of our entire country, they woke up to this data center here. No. And who's behind this? Well, nobody would tell the citizens of St. Charles, Missouri, who's behind. It took them many months to realize, to uncover that it was Google behind this. It was trying to put this in their community. And what killed the idea in St. Charles, Missouri, was that somebody realized that they're going to put in 125 diesel generators with this data center to keep it running, keep it humming.
Yeah.
Keep it humming in case there was an energy blackout. Well, these energy blackouts are occurring because of the data centers.
They're the ones that are overloading the power grid, causing an energy blackout. So then these diesel generators kick in, which are far more noisy and create a pollution risk to the underground water. Because with diesel, it can leak, often does. Now you've polluted your underground water supply. Now everyone's got to use bottled water in the community. So that was the tipping point in St. Charles, Missouri, a few months ago, where the public said, no, we're not doing this here. Not doing this here. So you get some of this, well, that's NIMBY. That's NIMBY, not in my backyard. Well, it's not in my backyard. Why are you doing it anywhere? What's the benefit of these things? Nothing. Nothing. Not only do they not bring jobs, they're probably taking away jobs, good jobs that exist today. They're probably eliminating jobs.
Well, the AI, certainly we hear there's a concern about that. And as far as job production, we've had calls on this, and we hear that, yes, during construction, there may be some job production, but afterwards, not so much. We hear it's very limited. Now, I do have a report that someone sent me from a supposed economic development individual. So we can surmise what side of the aisle or what side of the argument they're going to be on. They said something about 400 to 500 high-paying permanent jobs with the addition of 1,500 construction building jobs to get off the ground. I can't imagine 400 to 500 people. I would like a breakdown of how that's going to play. I find that one extreme.
Yeah, that's not true. It's a few dozen menial jobs that come with these data centers. A few dozen. It's not 400 or 500. And they're not executive jobs. They're menial jobs.
There you go. And we know AI is taking away a lot of the higher level jobs as well. So you're going to be replacing those with lower income in your neighborhood. That's not always a good thing, not the direction most mayors want to go. And this does say that they would need something other out there. They could connect to rural water, but would most likely need something like BESS, battery energy storage systems, to ensure consistent power supply, and therefore would need additional land. So I already have Nancy White, who talks to us a lot about the battery energy storage. She's going to come on right after you and talk about why this is not a good idea. So it's not that I'm just opposed to these, but I'm tired of us getting, as you say, these pop up. And by the time we learn about them in our neighborhood, I mean, within a couple miles of myself, I just learned last night that there's a data center supposedly coming in. This changes my timber. This changes the animals, the wild animals. This changes the ability to go out and hunt on your own property if you're close to that. This changes the demand on water, on energy. As you're saying, they make these great deals. They get a great lower rate, but the community around often get stuck paying a higher rate. And what irks me most is most people have to go get a permit if they're going to put in a sidewalk, put on a deck. But nobody did any zoning. I don't remember a zoning meeting on this. I don't remember anything.
Yeah, they do it in a sneaky way, Tamara. There is a zoning meeting, but you won't hear about it. And they'll do it when nobody knows about it. It'll be maybe other business on the agenda. They do have to get rezoning, and that's where we can stop these. But the trick is trying to learn about it. And now some emails have come out from Illinois where somebody did a FOIA request, and some of these evil council people were bragging about how they held a meeting and no one knew about what they were really doing. And it come out, these are your council people are supposed to be representing everybody. They say, yeah, we got at this meeting, no one really knew what we were doing. You know, that was so clever and stuff. What really offends me, Tamara, is that these big tech people, they think they're smarter than us. They think that, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. This is high tech. This is the future. This is high tech. You know, they think they're smarter than us, but they're not. They're not. I mean, what they're doing is they're stealing from us, is what they're doing. They're stealing from us, and we need to stop it.
But why are they always after our prized farmland? I can't help but come back, I would never wear a tinfoil hat, Andy, you know that. But I do have this lovely, lovely, lovely tinfoil tiara that I will adorn for, such occasions. It comes back to me, to the World Economic Forum, when we heard those voices telling us we would own nothing by 2030 and we'd be happy about it. In Iowa, we're fighting the CO2 pipeline, and they're being secretive and less than honest, and I would say deceitful in their dueling bills at the State House right now. There's a whole propaganda campaign to tell people how now not just 2 miles, they want a 10-mile stretch of control of your land, and some say county-wide. So you would not have control. Even if you owned it, you would not have control of it, which to me seems fascist in nature. Isn't that when you own something, but the government tells you what you can and can't do with it? This isn't even for government use. It's for private gain, Summit CO2 pipeline. And so, again, they're coming through and destroying good agriculture. Another legislator offered them the right of way along the roads. That didn't take. They want right through the prime farmland. Andy, why don't they take these into inner cities where they're maybe an area that's gone into disarray and been diminished? Why don't they build a 10-story building? Why does it have to be spread out across 600 acres?
Right. That's exactly right. And you take away that farmland, that means you're not going to be able to use that farmland for anything else once one of these data centers go in. So look at the opportunity costs. I mean, not only is this a bad idea, but it ruins that property for any beneficial use. If you want to develop the farmland, how about putting a school in there? How about a brilliant new school which would attract people to the community, which would bring in population? These data centers are not bringing any new population, not going to help your home prices to go up. Just the opposite. Your home prices are going to go down from these data centers.
All right, Andy, we've got a minute. Anything? Well, we're right on it. In closing, what would you like to say to our viewers?
Tamara, this is one of the hottest issues in our country right now, and it's a grassroots issue, and that's what my mother, Phyllis Schlafly, used to focus on, those grassroots issues. You're not going to see this on the mainstream media. You're not going to hear the president talking about this much and so on, congressman stuff. This is bubbling up from the grassroots, but this is what swings elections, these grassroots issues. And we just had an election in Texas, and it was a Republican seat, and the Democrat won it by a landslide. And these data centers may be one reason that the Democrats are gaining strength in Texas and in other areas of our country. So as conservatives, we focus on these grassroots issues and we lead on them. And we need to, as conservatives, we need to get on this opposition to data centers and lead the way and stopping these things. They want to build them in California, go ahead and do it, but they don't want to build them in California. So maybe don't build them at all. That's fine with me. But if you're going to build them in California.
Yeah, or somewhere where you're not destroying the most productive farmland that literally feeds the world. Let's stop. Why is that the target? And so, I think we see some supervisors and some folks in government who see this as an easy win, a plus for whatever promises that are made. But in your paragraph, and again, this is 999 to 1 against in the Phyllis Schlafly report, and it's on the Liberty Sentinel, but your paragraph, the grassroots are rising up. A $2 billion new data center blights the landscape, dries up the water supply, overloads the power grid, and brings an estimated total of only 37 new jobs. And I don't know how you came to that 37 new jobs, but there's a link there where people can go and find that information. Andy, thanks for bringing this to our attention. Thank you for writing about it.
Thank you, Tamara, for your wonderful show.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. Nancy White will talk about that battery energy storage system and the issues with that. And then we'll talk maybe a little bit about Islam and the SAVE Act. I want to see safe and secure elections, as do you. But at what price? At what risk to state sovereignty? We'll be right back. This is our new NutraSwish, Numi NutraSwish. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS, one of the products we offer because you all have different preferences and respond differently to different items. So this is our lavender. It's for ladies anywhere along your journey. No hormones in it, but if you're taking a supplement, hormonal supplement, you might want to check with your doctor. The blue is for anyone over the age of 18. It has glutathione, which is a antioxidant, helps with over 400 cellular functions, and it helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those terms we learned after 2020, and it helps detox glyphosate. The good glutathione helps detox glyphosate. Glyphosate is found in ag chemicals or lawn chemicals, and some are very concerned about possible links to cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. But the blue bottle, the glutathione, helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, and glyphosate. Then there's the mango colored bottle you see on your screen. Numi Neuro helps with your mind, your memory, and your focus. Now, again, after 2020, we heard something about brain fog, a term we'd not heard before. Whether it's from a virus or a vaccine, many have found relief, a little help with Numi Neuro, the mango colored bottle. When used with the blue bottle, it is so positive that the American Brain Council wrote about it and it looked like an endorsement. Though we're told they don't write endorsements, it was simply a positive review of what they saw. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS, neumi.com/TTSS for the Tamara Scott Show. Why? Because we want you feeling your best. And when you use that TTSS link, you help us be our best. All right. Thank you for being with us. Andy Schafley gave us a great report on data centers. I mean, I think most of us have already a little hesitation, but you don't know why, which always takes me to that little video. If I had it before I could just pop it up, it's the little Seven Dwarfs and Grumpy. It's just like 7 seconds. He goes, I don't know, but I'm again it, right? You can't even put your finger on it, but you just know something's not adding up here. And so I appreciate Andy talking to us. If these are good, then one, why do you need tax credits? People who are putting investments in will do these types of things, just like the CO2 pipeline they're forcing on people here in Iowa. If it's such a good idea, do it on your own without the $17 billion tax credit from the very people you're breaking the backs to force them off their land or force control of their land to get it in their property. Seems just so wrong. Using up farmland, what people can and can't do with their farmland, it just goes against nature. It goes against the biblical principles of the prince should not take the inheritance of his people. Ezekiel, I think it's 46:18 maybe. It goes against our Constitution, eminent domain for public use, but certainly no eminent domain for private gain. And I don't even like it for public use. I know it says with proper pay, but even that, I'm like, if you don't want to sell, you shouldn't be forced to sell out under any. I just don't like it. Sorry. Either sway everybody or let the guy stay in the middle of the city if he wants. I don't know. I don't much like it. And I get why we do it, but not under the circumstances that it's being forced and foiled on people in Iowa for a privately funded investment group to make big money with $17 billion tax, as according to Congressman King. That's a year, by the way. That's a year. All right. I mentioned the one report we heard talked about they would need a BESS, a battery energy storage system. Nancy White has been on this show several times. She was kind enough to guest host for me while I was in Santa Barbara doing the People's Business for the Republican Party at RNC. Nancy, thanks for joining us today.
And thank you so much for having me again.
And thank you for guest hosting while I was out of town. I heard good reports.
Oh, well, thank you. It was a true honor. I always appreciate being here.
Well, you have great information, and it makes me feel better when I need to leave, if I can leave the show in good hands, right? If I know of people that are going to give us great information. So, folks, you're seeing a photo of Nancy because she is traveling today. So she's joining us on audio only. So that's a photo. So when you don't see her lips moving, don't panic. It's just a beautiful photo of her when I think she did guest host the show. All right. So I just told you, and I'll try and read it and make sure I'm saying it appropriately here, but we had sought some information from some folks at the county level to see about these data centers, and they had said out in the rural area to connect to rural water, which I don't know how that goes. I think that's pretty costly, I have to tell you, and it's still from the water table that's going to impact everyone. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then it says most would likely need something like a BESS battery to ensure consistent power. So BESS, battery energy storage system, you've taught us that. For consistent power supply, therefore would need additional land for that. Okay, if I'm understanding that correctly. Tell us the concern with the BESS system.
Yes. So when I did host a couple weeks back, one of the things that I covered was the fact that these battery storage systems rely on components from a Chinese-based company that is on the CCP. They work with the CCP military. And the concern is the fact that the Department of War and the Department of Justice, the Select Committee on CCP, they all acknowledge that this company is using civil-military fusion, using everyday items, everyday things to cause real-world harm in a military fashion against we the people. And additionally, in the last week, so I believe it was last week, the governor of Texas actually even added this company to the prohibited technology list. So the issue that I have it doesn't matter what you're using it for, the grid, for a data center, if you're having to rely on an adversary to America to operate, then perhaps you shouldn't be operating it. Kind of falls into that do-it-yourself kind of category. And if you rely on an enemy to America to control our data, and if the whole point of the data centers is to get ahead of China and what they're doing, how wise is it to operate it based off of them controlling the thing that keeps it on? It doesn't make sense to me. And that's a big concern I have when I'm looking at battery storage, and the operation of it relies on a CCP military company.
All right. And you mentioned that the governor in Texas just signed a moratorium?
Yes,
Who? And
well,
that is
the governor
on
in Texas, he added, so the company is Contemporary Amprex Technology Limited, CATL. He added them to a prohibited technology list for the state. So Texas passed in the 89th legislation a cyber command legislation, and they created a cyber command center in San Antonio, Texas. And the governor, they found through their research and their study that there were multiple companies that need to be prohibited from operating in state infrastructure, and this company was one of them. Now, as far as a moratorium, that is something that I am working on at a local level. So my county, actually where I reside, will be passing a moratorium next week to halt any further movement on these builds until the Attorney General completes his investigation into CATL and critical infrastructure.
Okay. And so you are right in the mix of it. You are making a difference. And as I've told our folks, the research that you do is very helpful for a lot of the folks who are actually in the positions of leadership doing the work. I think you are a great asset to many of them. All right. So if we're talking about the BES as the BESS system being necessary in some cases, let me just go and see if I can find it. Texas has a dire water shortage, while data centers require enormous amounts of water to keep the computers from overheating. One data center can consume millions of gallons of water daily, the equivalent of needs of an entire town of 50,000 people. And it says Texas agency estimated that many Texan towns and communities would face severe water shortage by 2030. A harsh drought could accelerate that problem. This is according to Andy's report, Andy Schlafly, the Phyllis Schlafly report. There are 411 existing data centers. They've got a link where you can go to and see the source for that. Second only to Virginia. Another 442 are planned for Texas, which is the equivalent to nearly doubling its population in terms of water usage. Texas taps into broad but depleting underground aquifers that most of their water needs, such as data centers anywhere in Texas, deplete that water supply for everyone there. So I just want to bring this up for you because apparently this is going to be an issue in Texas if they have 411 existing data centers and they plan to put in another 442. It's already I would say, critical hit on your water, but I would be concerned about your electrical as well, and they will probably need the best system, I'm guessing, or the diesel generators that Andy mentioned that can also leak, pollute a water supply, and make a terrific noise, a humming.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Actually, matter of fact, all you have to do is look at Corpus Christi, Texas. Corpus Christi, Tesla built a data center out there, and they use, I believe it's 500 million gallons of water a day. And the water is so strained out there that the high school football team has a timed shower limit. And there's actually a map that's circulating right now on the significant water that has decreased in that area since this data center has gone active. And I believe it went active in 24, 23. And it's already significantly impacted the water in Corpus Christi alone. And you can find it. It's like 500 million gallons. And you're absolutely right. We do not have the water or the infrastructure for these types of builds. And actually, matter of fact, even ERCOT put out something in reference to that concern. So you're spot on. Texas is not equipped to handle the infrastructure for these things.
Interesting. All right. Anything else you want to say to our viewers in parting? Anything we're not thinking about on these?
I think the biggest thing to focus on is, yes, the components are critical in the battery storage systems, and yes, the water are critical as well. But so is our land. We need our land for food and for resources. And I think it's key to remember that when you're looking at these things, there's a time and a place, and on our food producing farmland and critical water sources that we need to survive, these are not the places. If this is what it takes, then we don't need it that bad. We need to find a different way. And I think that that's the most pivotal point.
Yeah, very good point. And I ask Andy, why don't they build 10-story units or even higher in an area of an inner city that has gone into despair, where they need revitalization? A lot of these don't need a lot of employees once they're up and running. So why don't they build them in those areas? He said they don't build them in California and Silicon Valley, the very people who benefit from these, but they come for our prized farmland. You're talking about your food production, your farmland. Why? I just have to think, I said I put on my tinfoil tiara earlier, I have to think it's back to that World Economic Forum of coming after our food production period. They can have better control of us. All right. I'll let you comment on that if you want before you need to go.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think it has everything to do with the World Economic Forum and United Nations goals. And it's not hard to see that at all. So I think you're absolutely right.
Nancy White is my guest. Give our folks the organization in which you are with.
Yes, ma'am. I am the president of Legislative Energy Action Foundation, and I can be reached through my email, which is leaf.president@proton.me, or you can call me at 469-595-1691, or I'm easy to find on social media, Nancy White.
Very good. Give us the phone number one more time.
Yes, ma'am. 469-595-1691. And then there's also my website, legislativeenergyactionfoundation.com, and you can reach out for consultation through that as well.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your information. Always, always excellent. Safe driving to you, and Lord bless you as you travel today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yep, we'll be right back. Stay tuned after these messages. The Tamara Scott Show, helping you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Right. There's so much I want to take you on here. I saved the last 10 minutes or 8 minutes to be able to talk to you about this, but there's so many different directions I want to go, right? So we've been talking about the data centers, their demand on natural resources. And I turned from that one, but having the same demand, let me see what size that was, would have the same demand on a city of 50,000. One data center can consume millions of gallons of water daily, the equivalent of the needs of an entire town of 50,000 people. Where are all the climate activists? Where are the environmentalists? This is a huge hit. And beyond that, many of us don't want the surveillance upon us that is going to be stored in a lot of these data centers, that this is how they're using it. I don't want all of them combining to digitalize our medical records online. It's one thing that the system does it. That's enough of a threat for me. But remember, they talked about all of the groups working together and exchanging information. Not a good idea in any way. Won't help you in the room as far as the exam room whatsoever. It just helps other people get to your information. I don't know, in a political cycle, when somebody could hack it, when somebody else leaks it for whatever reason. And I don't want the government having it, period. I don't want government in healthcare, frankly, period. So just so much with these. These are not sitting well with people, as Andy Shapley just told you, the Phyllis Shapley report, 991 opposing it to maybe one for it. And that was from a mayor, I believe. Not sure if that was in North Carolina. Probably not an official poll, but reading the people fairly well, and gave us a couple examples of folks getting them stopped, because we often don't hear about them until it looks like they're done deal. Talking about in Texas, 400 existing data centers, 442 are still planned, reminding me of their number of mosques. I think it was around 400 right there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and the numbers that they plan to put in the next few years, and the numbers that were in just in the last 2 years, which is a huge concern for me. I was going to play a video that talks about all of the bills. We hear that Governor Abbott has signed something that would stop Sharia law, but we're told by people who live there, not so. And so I think I'm going to wait on that, Thomas, if that's okay, because it's going to take more time, and I want to be able to really talk about it. Tomorrow, Hillary Cassell, representative from Florida, who has written a bill to ban Sharia law in governmental bodies and schools. If you get a scholarship, you can't send the money back home to a foreign country. What a novel idea. Good bill, on the right track. And so she talks to us tomorrow. And then I'm trying to think who else we have. I can't remember who our other guest is. Sorry, it was a great show. It was a fun lineup. I just can't remember who the other guest is. I'm a little mad at myself for that. But we taped it yesterday. And so make sure you tune in. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons why the Texas one, but there's more. Did you know that Sunday was Hijab Day, World Hijab Day? Did you know that they promoted it in your public schools? Yeah, they did. Not just New Jersey that we've covered, but other schools as well. We'll talk about that. I'll save that to another day. Thomas, time-wise, oh goodness. Do I have time to talk about the SAVE Act a little bit? Oh, I have 8 minutes. Oh, all right. Hot dog. Here we go. So the SAVE Act is something that we're all talking about, and the president wants to call it Save America Act. He's great about naming things. We all appreciate what this country has done for this country, for countries across the globe. America is better once respected, and countries across the globe are safer where we can, and working towards that in other areas. So we appreciate that. At the same time, we have a constitution. We need to respect our Constitution. And I, for one, am tired of trying to correct bad law with more bad law. It never works. You have to cut out the bad law, just like you have to cut out a cancer. More bad law won't make it better. You have to correct the bad law. I'm tired of seeing more law, just law in general, created when good law is not enforced. That would correct the problem. Let's correct the problem by the laws that are already there. Because there's concern with this taking over elections. The president said he wanted to nationalize elections, and I would invite him on this show anytime to come tell us what he meant by that. Maybe it's not as terrible as it sounds, but to nationalize elections is not what we want. Democrats tried that. That was the first bill they offered, H.R. 1, I believe it was, when they took over the House in his first term. We don't need elections nationalized. Can you imagine having no control over your closest local elections? And some are saying, well, it's just for the presidential, just for the national. Would that include the congressional, the U.S.? So many questions here. And once something starts out as voluntary or just this part, it often grows. And so, all right, so here I'm just going to tell you comments I sent to several senators and got really positive replies back. All right, so Real ID is a real concern. Twyla Braze has testified to the danger of digital tracking. Real ID must be removed for this bill. Chip Roy apparently, and I didn't hear it, but I was told, admitted that the Real ID is in the bill to help force states to adopt Real ID. Real ID has apparently been around 20 years. It's controversial and it's just never taken flight. And this is one way they're going to force states to do it. Not your job and not through this bill. So I just said that's a bill killer. 2, we all see, and I just texted this out while I was walking to another place in the building. So there you go. We all see the need to ensure safe and legal elections, which likely wouldn't be an issue if immigration was enforced. If California, New York, and other states refuse and will not follow immigration laws, why would we think they'll enforce election laws? So why should the rest of us risk losing our state sovereignty, our control over our elections, for other states that aren't going to do it anyway? They've already put us in jeopardy with their illegal immigration and refusing to uphold the immigration laws in our Constitution. Okay, concern. Number 3, it takes over our sovereignty and the rights of our state determining elections, voter identification. We don't want to cede our authority to the states. We just don't want to do that. You as elected officials at the state level, it's not just an opportunity, it is an obligation for you to nullify federal law that takes over your responsibility. And if it is not listed in the enumerated powers, if it is not listed in the Constitution, then it doesn't belong to the DC swamp. It is ours. Don't give it up. Your founding father said the best government is that which is local, closest to the people. Keep that, whether it's state, county, whatever it may be. Don't let anyone take that away from you. 4, we already have certification process in Congress to stop uncertainties and questionable vote totals. January 6th, that's what that was. Why push a bill that leans toward a federal takeover when other remedies already exist? It gives concerns to us as guardians of liberty of what is the real motivation behind this bill. And if congressional members didn't do it on January 6, 2021, when millions of people were there with them, observing, many urging them to do it, we'd heard they would, and they caved. Why do you think they would ever enforce anything that you put in a law? We already have the remedy. They didn't do it when it was obvious they should have by the sheer number of people there and the concerns and things we had seen already since November to January. All they had, and we weren't saying at that point we wanted government to decide who the winner was. We were saying that they should have done their responsibility and said, not certain, send it back to the state. We need verification and clarification and proof, certainly within their means. 5, the SAVE Act needs amended to also apply to a photo ID at voting, not just for registration, but on the day of voting. Otherwise, you have illegals who are already here, may be registered to vote, and they would be grandfathered in. That doesn't solve the problem. It's problematic in itself. You need that voter registration, you need that voter ID on the day of voting. Here's one for you. I learned today, North Dakota doesn't have voter registration. State legislators are not certain how this might impact their state, who would demand control over this registration process. They say it could be a convoluted mess. Again, it's a state's issue, not a federal issue, unless the Constitution is amended the proper way through the legislative method that is mentioned not through a convention that puts the whole thing at risk, puts our whole Constitution at risk. And if people are trying to take over your power for an election, imagine what they would do in a convention. 7, POTUS, calling on nationalization of elections, not helpful. We love this president. And we deal with a lot of his tweets and his messages, and usually he comes out outsmarting most of us in the room. But just the term is just not helpful, and it's not constitutional, and it hurts the passage of the bill. We need a correction in that language. After 9/11, Patriot Act was passed, and years later we see constitutional issues and invasive surveillance of non-threatening legal American citizens. But we can't seem to get it off the books. We can't afford another overreaching surrender of states' rights and personal privacy that we won't be able to get corrected. And 9, why can't we wait? Why can't we just enforce immigration law, existing election law? Those states who fail should fail to get funding or won't have their election results counted in a presidential. It leaves the correction to them and the consequence of failing to correct it to them. So I think there are ways to fix it without these new overreaching laws. Need to remove motor voter registration, where that seems to be, there's no validation. You just go in and get a license and you can use pretty much any document. We've heard all kinds of documents are allowed, not proof of citizenship necessarily. We also hear sometimes it's online. So those who are interested enough to vote will go and be registered to vote. And so quit making it so extremely easy that it is not accountable. 10, we need to, and 11, no matter what laws are passed, what preventions are taken, until voting machines are safe and without potential to be hacked or programmed to sway an election, all other changes only hinder the rights of the states and the U.S. citizens. We've got to make sure the voting machines are not the problem while we hinder or put all these restrictions on we the people. The SAVE Act shouldn't put the law-abiding states or citizens at greater risk of losing sovereignty through overreaching authority. There you go. Thomas Helma doing on time. Time to wrap. Thank you, everybody. Join us tomorrow and we tell you live boldly, love better, laugh bigger, be encouraged, and never be complacent.